2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I'm your host, Zanman Shane Sabunia, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about pro wrestling this past week, which there wasn't a lot going on, but we had Dynamite, we had NXT. Jeff, did you get a chance to watch the ROH 500 episode?
I did. I watched the first match. I didn't get the second one. I also watched last week's Impact.
Okay.
Um, because we're getting ready for this big pay-per-view. Um, yeah. I don't. I Jonathan Gresham versus. I'm actually kind of glad we're starting here because this was something I wanted to talk about anyway. Because Ryan had mentioned something about my disgust for Tennille Dashwood. Every time you mention her name, I just go ugh.
Yeah.
And I don't even realize I do it. So that's the funniest part. But we were. I thought that that was a really good match. I did not see the Briscoes yet. I plan on watching that later today.
Hmm.
But as far as Gresham and Lethal went, it was pretty good.
It was, and it was like, and I like how they're kind of like as Gresham progresses in his title reign, how it's getting harder and harder for him to get victories. Like,
Right.
like his last few defenses, he's gotten down to no rope breaks left, and had to pull out and then he either pulls it out by getting a referee stoppage or getting a trap pin on his opponent, and like Ian said on in that match, he's won all these tournament matches, and I mean I should say all these pure division matches, including the tournament and his championship defenses and the tag team match, and he is undefeated in them, and yet he has never gotten the victory the same way twice.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is interesting seeing that. And I I like him so much better now than I did before, and I think a lot of it was that 15-minute classic he put on with ZSJ where it started to turn my life around on him. But
Right.
I like this whole foundation gimmick. I like what's going on there. Um, but that is where I kind of wanted to bring up Tennille Dashwood and my disgust for her, and it's not so much disgust for her as it is for Ring of Honor mishandling things. When she started,
Oh, I've never been able to stand her even when she was Emma. I didn't get the
I didn't
appeal.
like the dancing gimmick. That was terrible. But as far as like my reason for ugging every time I hear her is because Ring of Honor started this whole foundation thing, what, 2 years ago with Lifeblood. And the three members of Lifeblood that were actually, founding members, Tennille Dashwood, Juice Robinson, and David Finlay and Juice Robinson never wrestled a match under the Lifeblood gimmick. They wrestled that one pay-per-view match, which formed Lifeblood, and then they went away. Tennille Dashwood came out and cut a couple promos, and then she went away. And then it was left for Bandito, Haskins, and Tracy Williams to carry the burden. Well, Haskins had a couple of decent matches, but COVID kept him from being around. And Bandito just, for some reason, decided to leave and become a part of some trio stable.
Next to Blitz.
Yeah. So I don't know if my anger is against those three for never being a real part of it, or if my anger is against Ring of Honor for starting something that they could not finish.
Yeah,
Maybe have long term something, maybe have these guys under contract before you start this big promotion.
well, Finley Finley would have stuck around longer, but he got injured right away. But yeah, I agree with you. Like Juice and Tennille, I don't remember Tennille ever actually wrestling a match
Nope.
as a member of Lifeblood. She was kind of out there as almost like their manager or their ballet or something, or cheering them on, and she would like commentate during their matches, but she never actually wrestled as a member of Lifeblood.
Yeah, I never saw
Uh,
her.
and Juice, like I think pretty much as soon as Lifeblood started, he had to go back to New Japan to do the New Japan Cup. So it was, and then he was like pretty much stayed over there. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that. I don't know that I would hold it against Tennille though. I mean, um, I don't know what happened with her in Ring of Honor because it did seem like she was going to be a member of their roster, and then she never really was there much.
No, I mean she was gone anyway for.
And then she joined Impact, and she might have appeared for NWA if I'm not mistaken too. But
If she did, I don't remember.
well,
But I
did you?
mean,
By the way, did you see that they have another pay per view coming up next month too, or in
Impact
June?
or
In
NWA?
June, NWA,
I
yeah.
didn't even know they were still wrestling, to be honest with you.
Well, they had a pay per view last like earlier this month, and now they've got a pay per view scheduled for June. And I don't get them. It's like why would people pay to see this promotion? I don't understand.
To be in straight up honesty, ever since COVID hit, I didn't even know that they were still a thing. Because you see their wrestlers appearing everywhere else. Ricky Starks is now in AEW. James Storm is back in Impact. Eli Drake is, well, now in NXT.
Right.
So I didn't even realize that Cole Cabana is in AEW. I didn't even realize that they were still a promotion, to be honest with you. Except for the
Yeah.
fact that occasionally we see their women's title holder on AEW every now and then.
Right. Like the main event of their pay per view this month was with Nick Aldis defending his World's Heavyweight Championship, which I can't even believe they still call it that, against Aaron Stevens. So
Yeah, I had no clue.
yeah, I just think it's odd because I mean I understand that they probably want to make money. I just don't understand what people are they appealing to that are going to buy their events when they're not even running shows and they have no talent on the roster. It's just odd.
Well, that's just it. Is I haven't seen an issue of NWA Power in damn near a year.
Right.
So it's like if they're running pay-per-views, how the hell are they running pay-per-views? They've got no storyline builds. They've got all the talent that we were enjoying watching is not there anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
And because I see everybody, in different promotions now, I honest to God didn't even know that they still existed, and that's pretty sad.
Right, and like you said, like they're bigger draws other than and I know you've always been a fan of him. I just don't necessarily think that Aldis is ever going to be a draw. Um, but I mean like I think James Sword is back with TNA now, right?
Yep.
And Eli Drake is now LA Knight in NXT. Thunder Rose has been appearing over the place um, for, oh, not over the place. She's been appearing for AEW, like you mentioned. So I really don't know, who they still have on their roster that would be somebody that would draw anything for them.
Right.
Okay, so I'm sorry. It was actually March 21st was their pay per view that they came back for, and it was Crimson, Jax, Dane, and Jordan Clearwater in a four-way match. When I thought Crimson and Jax Dane were actually a tag team. Um, it was Tyrus, remember him,
Hmm.
against JR Kratos. Elijah Burke versus Tom Latimer.
Wow, Elijah Burke.
Yeah,
I thought he,
I thought he retired due to back injury.
yeah, I thought he couldn't wrestle anymore. I thought
Uh,
that's why he was a commentator forever.
Camille defeated Thunder Rosa in a number one contenders match for the NWA World Women's Championship. Trevor Murdoch defeated Chris Adonis to hold on to his NWA National Championship, and then Nick Aldis defeated Aaron Stevens to retain the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship.
Hmm.
So basically, Trevor Murdoch versus Chris Masters, right?
Yeah, I forgot Trevor Murdoch was there.
I forgot Chris Masters was still wrestling
I forgot Trevor Murdoch was, to
As
be
Chris
honest with you.
Adonis. Yeah,
I mean, I last time I remember watching, I guess he did come out and put on a halfway decent match, and they were all um, bragging about how great he was, but I didn't know that he was wrestling again.
yeah. So that was their pay per view card. I can't imagine more than 10 people bought that.
I can't imagine that not being an NWA Power. I, I don't know. But
So
yeah, and then like I said, I watched Impact this week, and some of it I enjoyed. Um, like I had to actually Google as to why uh, I can't not Matt Cardona, the other one. Brian Myers is wearing an eye patch, um, because that kind of seemed a little odd to me. But I kind of like the way they're
Was he
building
saying
the.
arg? Was he saying arg a lot?
No, but I guess Eddie Edwards tried to blind him because
Oh,
Sammy Callahan did it to him, so he's got to do it to somebody else. Um, but they're building some pretty decent stories between Trey and uh, Sammy Callahan. I like the match between Cardona and Callahan. I kind of like the way that they're kind of building this Brian Myers Matt Cardona feud. I love Matt Stryker and D'Lo Brown on commentary.
oh, really?
I love the that dynamic of those two.
Cool.
Um, I don't think Kiera Hogan and whoever her tag partner is should ever speak ever. Um, Jazz's whole retirement thing was a little bit odd, but I do like the fact that even though she was given a title opportunity, she was like, "No, I just announced my retirement. I'm done,"
Yeah.
and didn't
I
say, "Oh, I'll wrestle one more time," like so many wrestlers do.
Yeah, I'm still planning on buying tonight's pay per view, but I didn't watch any of the Impact setting it up. I'm sure they'll have video packages showing what happened.
Oh, of course they will.
So I wasn't really that concerned about it.
Yeah, and I don't know when I'm gonna watch that. I'll try and get that in before next week. But
Yeah, you will.
um, it's I'm actually looking over that card. I kind of like the way that they built things, and I like the fact that they weren't really relying on people that don't really matter. Like they like that whole Johnny Swinger thing forever. I'm glad that they just, there wasn't any nonsense interview in the back like there was even a year ago, where they would just have a bunch of really awkward videos in the back that weren't leading anywhere, but it was a storyline that they had to have some mid-carders involved in.
Yeah, and you don't you miss seeing Katie what's her face jiggle her tits around all the time though?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it was still unnecessary.
It was so stupid, is what it was. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, Impact wasn't
it's
horrible, but it
I
wasn't.
and I do feel like a bit of hypocrite. I said like a year ago I'm never going to give them another dime of my money, but then I watch I see this card and I'm like I gotta see that card.
I think we were kind of on that as soon as Sammy lost.
Yeah, pretty much.
As soon as Sammy lost to I can't Tessa Blanchard, that's kind of where we were at. But I mean, I remember
It's
saying,
amazing. It's amazing how she was like the hottest thing in wrestling, like 2 years ago, and now you had to think what her name was.
yeah,
So
I mean, she's not even an afterthought in any promotion. Hasn't been employed anywhere since what, January, I think is when they fired her, when she refused to send in those promos.
I think January was the last match, but I think I think it was like March or April of last year. Anyway, it's been close. It's been a year or more.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I guess it hasn't. She hasn't even
and
been a hiccup with anybody.
yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know if she wrestled for AAA or anything like that, but she definitely has not been front and center with the U.S. promotion.
Well, and I mean, people are blaming it on her. Oh, she's an in-ring bully. That I think gets blown out of proportion. But the reason I would never hire her is because she's your world champion and she's refusing to cut promos for you
Yep,
to progress her storylines. That's the reason why she should never be hired again.
yep. She refused because of promo. She refused to wrestle the match, to defend the championship. She refused to even leave Mexico with her, fiance, husband, whatever the fuck he is.
I
You
mean,
know.
I got it when COVID was a huge, huge thing and they were, closing borders and everything. I understood her not wrestling, but to not send in a promo, that's a,
Hmm.
especially with today's technology, she could have gotten on a Zoom call and cut her promo.
Yeah, she definitely could have.
That's the part there. It's like I get the closed borders and not wrestling and all that stuff, but once the second that she refused to do her job, that was when it was like I hope never nobody ever hires her again, no matter how talented she is.
I'm trying to remember. Is Moose on this card tonight?
I don't remember. I believe if he's not, it's a shame.
Yeah, so because I'm trying to remember. I remember mentioning him last week. All right,
But
so here it is. Fight.
this is Kenny versus Rich Swann too, so
It is, yeah, for the. But now there is no TNA champion because Rich Swann defeated Moose to combine those titles.
right. So maybe Moose isn't on this one. Regardless, they have a stacked card.
No, they do. I just was wondering, how, because I mean, you and I like talked about like a year ago that Moose really should be their champion.
Right.
You know.
And he's probably the best heel in the company, and I mean he's taken that over from Sammy.
Right.
But Sammy kind of once um, OVE was dead, Sammy just kind of was. Once they fired OVE, and Sammy had nobody to kind of push around with the mini Sammy. I guess he's kind of been directionless as far as they can tell.
Will you tell Arlo to stop growling?
That's funny.
Well, he's not listed on the card, so unless he's part of Violent by Design, he's not on the show
No,
tonight.
he's not. Violent by
Okay.
Design is Rhino, Eric Young, and two other people that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's not Moose.
Okay. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know who they were. So yeah, it still was like a great card though, like you said. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Josh Alexander in a X Division Championship match.
Yeah, and I'm still looking forward to that Cardona Brian Myers match.
I know you are. It'll be good.
I kind of wish they'd made him a tag team again instead, but I don't. I like a feud between the two of them.
Yeah, it's gonna be
And
interesting.
it's nice having Brian Myers actually being treated with some respect because he was the hottest thing on the Indies after they fired him. And then they brought him back and made him a joke that couldn't win a match on, it was losing. I think he went on like 100 match losing streak or something like that.
Hmm.
And there was no payoff. He just got fired.
Right.
And when he left WWE the first time, he literally was one of the hotter things on the Indies.
I didn't know that. Oh yeah, I remember that now. I just mentioned that. Yeah, he was.
So it's a shame the way he's always been disrespected by that company.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the show tonight. So, I did get a chance to watch Dynamite this week. That was, I thought it was a pretty good show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. MJF actually showing some. I was a little. MJF actually showed some passion for the first time ever in a promo. So it was a little off-putting to hear Jericho come out and say, "Yeah, we heard your promo, but one thing about you is you never show any passion. It sounds like you're just reading off a script." And it was like, "Wait a minute, Jericho, are you sure you just saw the promo? Because that's the most passion I've ever seen MJF."
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
And then
Uh,
the other thing that Jericho said that was like made me go kind of take a step back was, "You never let anybody else in your stable talk." It's like, dude, you've done that for years. This is in fact, even the last three promos that you cut as the new face Inner Circle, you were the only one that talked. This is the first time anybody else in your stable has talked.
Other than whispering in his ear the name of the Pinnacle.
Right. So there were those two things about his promo were like, okay, yeah, okay. Um, but other than that, I like the way that that's heating up. I like the way that it's becoming personal between Jericho and MJF. Um,
I really do like the genuine smile on his face when the crowd is cheering for him and singing along with Judas. Now before it was kind of like a smirk, and now it's just like in a genuine like smile, like hey, you guys really do like me still.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do enjoy that aspect of his current character.
Yeah, and I think it's well deserved. I mean, this is probably his final run as a actual in-ring performer, so I'm happy to see him enjoying it the way he is.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
And
uh,
and did I hear right? Did they say that the Blood and Guts match was going to be a one match show that night?
yeah, I heard that too, and I'm like, that you're gonna have a 2 hour match?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Like, are you gonna have are they gonna be like promos built around it? I mean, because I can't imagine the match is gonna last 2 hours. Can
I
you?
can't imagine a match of that brutality going more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
crazy.
even a War Games match with the stipulation where the match doesn't actually start until, 25 minutes in doesn't go an hour.
Yeah, but then the war games we've seen on NXT have gone like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, but not 2 hours.
No, that's a crazy thing. Is it? What are they gonna be doing for the first for the rest of the show? Is what I'm kind of wondering.
I'm wondering if it's just going to be like 45 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes of build up for the actual match and then introductions and everything. So we'll actually get about an hour long match.
Yeah, definitely could be. And then promos from other people, maybe like who do you think is gonna win this one, or
But
that
yeah,
kind of thing.
when I heard that, I'm like, God, I hope this isn't a 2 hour match. I
Yeah, me too.
they would literally somebody would bleed out because MJF is going to get cut like within the first 3 minutes of the match.
Right.
And if he's going to bleed for 2 hours, he's going to bleed out.
Yeah, that was a really weird thing that they said, I thought.
The There was one other thing about this whole Pinnacle feud that, yeah, the other thing too is, it wasn't a mortal promo, but yeah, Jericho did kind of mess up when he said he's got a 78 cent brain and or 13-cent body or something like that. Um, it was funny to watch Wardlow call him out on that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he's like, you're saying nice and confident until you mentioned my name.
Keep looking. Um, and Darby versus Jungle Boy was phenomenal. I
Yeah, it was really good.
I loved that match. That was probably my favorite TV match, title match so far. TNT title, whatever they call it.
Yeah, it was a really good match. I didn't see the Matt Hardy versus Darby Alin match from 2 weeks ago because that's where the TNT app would not let me get to that match. But
Well, picture a street fight with 50-year-old Matt Hardy in it. That's not cinematic.
oh, so it wasn't as phenomenal as I said it was.
No, it was good. It was really good, but I thought Jungle Boy versus Darby Allin was better.
Ah, okay.
I thought Scorpio Sky versus Darby Allin was better.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
And I like this one better than the Scorpio Sky one. So I mean that's kind of where, and I like that Jungle Boy is becoming more and more of a, like, there was a moment at the end before Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky attacked
Hmm.
where I was looking at him going, I can see these two 10 years from now at a Rock versus Austin type level.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what they're going for. I, I have a real because of my personal bias, I have a real issue with it. Just because, to me, the best guy in that stable is not Jungle Boy right now. It's
Luchasaurus.
Luchasaurus,
Right.
and they're just not pushing him to the level that, because I was there live at All Out, and I could and I was there, part of the crowd that was reacting to Luchasaurus so strongly. And ever since his injury, it seems like they just kind of put him on the back burner and push Jungle Boy to the forefront of
They
it,
put him
which
on
I
the
get. I mean, I get that he's like a young guy and he's young and up and coming, but at the same time, Luchasaurus already has the goods now. So why aren't you pushing him now?
well,
You know?
and Luchasaurus is still getting those reactions from the crowd. Even when he's just a second on the apron, he gets those reactions. And I like there was one moment where I think it was Tony said, Jungle Boy's got a dinosaur in his corner and Darby's got an icon. And Jim Ross goes, well, I would choose the icon every day of the week. It's like, serious?
Over a dinosaur? Yeah, I thought the
Ser-
same thing.
You would choose 63-year-old Sting over a prime Luchasaurus, really? In real life? Like, I get it, maybe Sting from 96, 95, but Sting from 2001, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't get that either. Yeah, not 2021 either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess it is 2021, so he's even older.
Yeah, you said 2001.
But
Although I do have to say that there are times this thing does bore me as much as 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I can see where you got that year from.
although, 2004 through 2010 Sting in TNA was fun to watch. The main event Mafia, his little Joker gimmick. I liked him around that time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I've never not liked Sting. It's just, but I do feel like for Jim Ross to say he'd rather have, well, first of all, to say he'd rather have an icon than a dinosaur was just stupid
Right.
because you
It's a
know I.
dinosaur.
I mean, do I want Michael Jackson in my corner or a T Rex?
Very good point.
But then when you actually you look at those two guys, it's like, yeah, I would much rather have Luchasaurus than Sting.
Present day Luchasaurus over present day Sting.
Yeah,
I mean, if we were taking present day Luchasaurus and putting him up against, you know, that 96, 97 Sting, I would rather have Sting then.
right,
Well, keep
exactly.
looking.
I
Um,
mean, that's like saying, like, right now, would I rather have Roman Reigns in my corner or Steve Austin? Well, right now,
Stop.
if I'm talking about 2021 versions of both, I'd rather have Roman
Roman
Reigns.
Reigns, right. But Prime versus Prime, I'd rather have Austin. You
Exactly.
know, and but anyway, that was one of those little comments where it was like, what? I've also noticed over the last few weeks that it seems like Excalibur and Jim Ross are on the same page. Like, I don't know if something clicked after his little tirade that he threw when Drunk JR kind of got on him, but it seems like over the last few weeks, those two are gelling a lot better.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
There was and I can't remember the exact spots, but there was a couple. I thought there was a couple moves I thought were kind of rough this week on commentary between
Yeah,
the two of them.
but the what I'm talking about is they're not calling each other out for being stupid anymore. Where you could tell on air that there was some hardcore animosity between the two. I haven't felt like that over the last few weeks. And I just feel like they're gelling a lot better than they were even 3 months ago.
Yeah, that I agree with. And it might have been simply the fact that maybe Ross was trying to mentor him, and Excalibur took offense to something he said, and there was kind of hard bad blood going on there. Who
Well,
knows?
and
But
it was obvious.
because
It
because
was,
because like publicly, if you listen to like Jim Ross's podcast, which I do occasionally. I mean, I should say rarely, but every time I've listened to him on this podcast, he's mentioned how great a talent Excalibur is. He's going to be a great guy to pass the torch to. So it's I don't think it was anything that was that. I mean, if there was personal animosity between the two of them, he was not letting it affect him promoting him for the future.
he was
You know,
not letting it affect him when they weren't in the same room together.
yeah, that's kind of that could be it too. Yeah.
When they were in the same room, I mean, there was clearly tension to the point where there were things that JR said where you just went, oh, and vice versa. I mean, Excalibur took a few digs at him too, but you could tell that they were not liking each other there for a while.
Yeah. I and Ross doesn't bug me as much right now as he did 3 months ago either. So maybe Ross has changed.
Yeah, that's a possibility
I,
too.
I still I still cringe every time he says Jungle Boy Jack Perry
I
though.
did notice he did that quite a bit, but he also there were a few times because before it was like every time he said Jungle Boy Jack had to be right after it, and there were a few
Hmm.
times during this match where he just called him Jungle Boy. And maybe it's
Yeah,
because I expect him to say, and I start to cringe every time he does it. But then, when I didn't hear Jack Perry, I'm like, oh, hey, maybe he's
yeah.
getting it. Um, and the whole elite spot, I don't get it. Like, okay, great, yeah, they had their private trailer, they're talking about killing the business, blah blah blah, and then the horn starts honking, which was borderline annoying. But then all of a sudden we see, that, they're in this with cameraman. Not just the elite. There's Don Callis, there's cameraman in there. And the trailer gets hit by the truck,
Hmm.
flung into the side of the building. They run around to a closed door and nobody's in there, not even the cameraman.
I don't get it
It's like,
either.
what the fuck happened? Do they have a trap door in the bottom of it and they're hiding underneath it? What happened?
We'll see what they did off camera. Is they said Scotty five to beam down.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. What? That was just one of those moments where I was like, what? But I did like the between Moxley and Eddie, where he's like, why do you always gotta steal people's shoes? That made me laugh.
I thought it was great. He's like, why don't you wait till I get out the way? And Moxley's like, well, you should have gotten the way faster. He's like, I was trying to. I thought that was the greatest. I don't know if that was scripted or that was just like I ad libbed, but
Those two,
I thought it was
yeah, I
fantastic.
thought that was the next thing I was gonna mention too, is I thought that was great. But when he jumped on him about stealing shoes, I just started laughing. Why do you always gotta steal everybody's shoes? That made me laugh.
I really do enjoy their dynamic together. I just don't understand why they keep on pushing this Moxley Omega thing. It's been going on since December now. You know,
Yeah,
that's a. I mean, yeah, we wanted longer storylines, but it really feels like this should have been resolved by now.
especially considering Omega beat him twice.
Right.
It's like I kind of it was kind of a little bit fresher because when Moxley was swinging his bat, he wasn't talking about Omega, he was talking about the Bucks. So, it almost felt more like the feud was against the Elite, but also against the Bucks because they kicked him in the face.
And if that's where we're going for Double or Nothing, I'm down with it. If it's the Bucks defending their titles against Moxley and um, Kingston, and Omega's moving on to a new challenge, then cool. I'm cool with that. But if Omega's going to stay part of it, then it kind of unless I mean Omega being an ancillary part of it because of the fact that he's part of the stable makes sense. But if it's just going to be continue on between Moxley and Omega, then that to me is just kind of cringeworthy at this
And
point.
I know they're building this feud with Swan versus Omega, but up until this week, we hadn't heard anything about it on AEW. For the last few weeks, it seems like Omega is just rudderless.
Yeah,
He's got no feud that he's building. It's basically the Elite versus Moxley and Kingston. But other than that, there's no he, Omega's not in any feud on AEW.
no. And next week we and they keep talking about how Page is the number one contender. Well, next week is Page versus
Brian Cage.
Cage. So I wonder if the idea is that Cage is going to beat Page and Cage will be the guy challenging Omega.
I'm just
Because it does seem like and because we're like in the middle, we're almost at the end of April now, and I believe Double or Nothing is about a month from now. So it really it really feels like they should be building up something to be the title match of that show right at this point. And I
well,
and I and even though Page is basically undefeated, it still doesn't feel like he's got the momentum to be the top challenger.
yeah, and I mean this would have been a perfect time to be kind of in the background building a feud between Page and Omega. They have a history they could have easily worked off of, but instead they put all the focus on Omega versus the Bucks, and now that the Bucks turned heel, there's nothing anymore. Like
Right.
even had Paige maybe come out and did the run in to save Moxley's neck or whatever, along with the Bucks, it would have planted a little bit of a seed.
Right.
But they've just all of a sudden, like I said, it was just weird that all of a sudden Paige is the number one contender, which makes sense on paper because he is undefeated and he's beat some top-notch people. But to just all of a sudden mention it, and now we're 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I think it's 3 weeks of him being the number one contender, but there's no lead up to him versus Omega. He just literally um, avoided the question when he was asked of it, when the question was asked, and
Right.
there's been no more lead up. There's been no callbacks to him and Omega being former tag team partners and champions. There's been nothing. It's just kind of Page doing his own thing, defending the number one championship while Omega is off on the side.
Right. And I thought he was still involved in the Matt Hardy thing because the Matt Hardy's stable is against the Dark Order and Page is affiliated with the Dark Order, even though he's not necessarily a member. Um, and yet we've got now he's getting involved with Taz's team as well. It's really odd what they're doing with him.
And this,
I mean I do like the idea because we talked about this last week how he really needs to have like a big blood feud against somebody like Samoa Joe or Lance Archer. Well, Brian Cage fits that role too.
right.
So I mean, if he gets beat down by Monster Brian Cage and he has to have like a big battle against him to come out on top, then that will give him that momentum, but not in time for a Double or Nothing because Double or Nothing is on May 29th. You
And
know.
Cage has been teasing a face turn for the last few weeks,
Yeah, he has.
which was kind of odd seeing him come out and be, immediately go after um, Page
Yeah.
to powerbomb him. It felt a little bit forced, I guess, when you consider that he's been kind of slowly teasing a face turn for the last month or so.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of tension between him and Ricky Starks and stuff. Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah. And then
Um,
the other one that was kind of an odd moment, literally during that exact same time, was Lance Archer. Um, he's been kind of tweener, really focused on Sting, and then all of a sudden, here he is running to the rescue of Darby Alin.
right, because last week Sting like was like encouraging him, and they had like a nice moment. So I think now he's kind of on at least at least right now he's kind of on Sting's side. Like they've kind of become allies after that promo last on the previous week's Dynamite.
But if you think about it, that's a perfect fit for Sting to be a mentor slash manager for, he's already taken Darby Allen under his wing. He got Brian Cage's respect and then Lance Archer too.
Mhm.
Um, that would be a nice little stable for him to put together that would put these guys in a different light, give Archer and Cage maybe um, a little more something to do, and have them kind of be mentored by Sting. I think that would be a good way to use all four of those guys.
Yeah, I think a fun thing that could happen in this coming Dynamite would be they've already got Page versus Cage scheduled, right? So for
Hmm.
Page to say, well, why don't you put up that FTW championship against me?
Right,
And then Ricky Starks like, yeah, you should Cage, and then Ricky Starks costs Cage the championship, and then that kind of cement Cage leaving the team Taz and set up, Cage versus Starks for Double or Nothing.
right. And then that's where you could bring the Sting involvement because this whole started with him showing respect to Sting.
Right, exactly. So then you got like Taz in the corner of Starks and Sting in the corner of Cage
Right.
for that Double or Nothing match.
Yeah, and I think that would be really well done. And then there was one other thing on Dynamite. Oh, the managerial search for Jade Cargill.
Yeah, that was
Did you?
stupid.
And then of course they
I
only
still
had two
can't stand that
managers.
chick.
And then of course they only had two managers
Yeah.
actually say anything. Oh, I would love to have her. Money, money, money. It's like, what? It reminded me, there was back in the 80s, there was a manager search for somebody who came in, and all the heel managers were talking, did cut little promos about how great that person would be, and then they came out with somebody that was not even a part of uh, you'd never heard of before.
Well, Savage did that with Elizabeth.
Yeah, but there was somebody else that did it too that
Oh, okay.
I can't think of. But yeah, Savage did that too, and that was better done because you had like weeks of promos by Bobby Heenan and Lou Albano and everybody trying to sign him, and then he came out with Elizabeth.
Right, exactly. That's one that comes to mind when you mention that to me. Um, I also really enjoyed the women's championship match this week.
Oh
With
yeah,
Ty Conti challenging
Sheeta.
Sheeta. I kind of expected Conti to win, and so for Sheeta to fight through and get the win with the not even the Thomas Shea. It was another finishing move she hit. That was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
And I don't hear Ty Conti talk enough, but every time she does, it's like, oh, that's right, you are from Brazil.
Yeah, I really liked Sheeta's promo too, where she's like, you're a good wrestler. You're great. You're funny. You're pretty, and you're going to be champion. Just not tonight.
Yeah, yeah, I like that too.
I really enjoyed that promo.
Yeah, that was a really well done promo. I thought AEW was strong this week. I really did. I like there were certain things, but it didn't feel like it's been feeling, since AEW's inception. It felt like an actual Dynamite, not a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it did, and yeah, I really did enjoy this show this week. I did not really feel like there was a weak part in this show.
No, no, and there wasn't anything where they were, and maybe it's because they didn't have the pay-per-view quality match. I mean, you could argue that Jungle Boy versus Darby Alin was, but it was more of a TV match. It was what they should be having every week with Darby Alin defending the championship, which we said Cody was supposed to do and never did, even though he came out and proclaimed that he was going to defend it on every single Dynamite and then didn't.
I was really hoping that Austin and Colton would turn on Billy. That would have been great.
Yeah, I guess I could see that, but I can't see them turning on their own father.
Why Charlotte did?
Good point. Um, but how about that Anthony Agogo? Holy crap! Or who is that? Not Anthony Agogo, the big beast looking guy.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but yeah, that was awesome. Where he got hit with a chair and he just kept going.
He got
Yeah,
hit with a wooden chair that shattered,
right.
and he just stood there like, the fuck? What was that? Somebody
Yeah,
blow on me? That was, yeah. And I don't know this
and
whole.
and and he's got the size to hang with Gold Dust too.
Oh yeah,
You know.
but this whole Nightmare Family versus Nightmare Factory is nice because it's a nice mid card field, and Cody's nowhere near it. Cody hasn't been out there for two straight weeks.
Well, no, he's got that broken arm.
Yeah, but still. He's not inserting himself in the middle of this feud. The feud is between, the family versus the factory, and it's actually, I don't know, getting better. And
Yeah,
I think it's getting better because it's not Cody as the focal point.
yeah. I don't know how Cody could possibly be the focal point of this, just because I mean, yeah, he's the guy that was that created both, but at the same time, is there really going to be any kind of a payoff if it's if the main feud ends up being Cody versus
QT
um,
Marshall.
QT Marshall? It's we've already seen that match, and QT just doesn't have the chops for it.
No.
You know.
But, Dustin is a good person to, kind of bring these guys along in the ring and mentor them as an opponent. Um,
So is
Billy,
Billy Gunn for that matter.
yeah, and I was just gonna say, and so is Billy Gunn. And I think all of the guys, including QT Marshall, can actually learn from those two
Yeah, I totally agree.
and make themselves stronger. And I think that the work that they've done so far with in the last couple weeks since the turn has been actually really well done.
Yeah, it's I totally agree. I do like all three of those. Well, I mean the two I guess we haven't really seen that third guy yet, but I mean that's what we've seen so far from this Nightmare Factory. I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know they've had a lot of matches on Dark and things like that. I just don't watch Dark. Um,
Who's got the time?
yeah, right, especially with everything else. But anyway,
Probably the
moving
same. Probably the same people about the NWA pay per view. So yeah, I wrapped that
all
up nicely.
all three of them. I don't know. I look, NWA, I enjoyed your product a year ago. I just, honest to God, and I feel bad for it, didn't know that you guys were still wrestling. I
I don't feel bad for it at all.
honestly did not know.
So,
But I mean, I
uh,
like Billy Corgan as just a general human, and I like Nick Aldis. I've always been a fan of his work. And I felt like they actually had some momentum there. I loved their studio feel and the old school 80s feel that they were bringing. I like, some of the people in the ring, but I don't know. They just kind of fell off the radar. And when all their top talent, I started seeing other promotions, I honestly didn't even think they were still around.
yeah. Um, as far as NXT this week, you said you had something to say about Kyle O'Reilly. What I'd like to see about him before you move on is, I love the guy, but I'm not sure that he's really embraced this new character of his yet.
There you go.
This new coat of paint that he's got going on. I can see where they're going with it, but he doesn't look like he's comfortable in that skin yet.
Yeah, and I mean, I was gonna say that I think he looks like a star, especially when he's in the ring.
Hmm.
His match against Cameron Grimes was fantastic. I think he looks and feels like a star, even down to his entrance music, which I think is different than it was at Stand and Deliver, isn't it?
It
Because
seems a little bit different. Yeah,
yeah, it
it does
sounds
to me.
different. It doesn't sound like I'm not getting that generic wrestler sound even when it first kicks in. So I don't know if they changed it up a little bit or what happened, but I like his music, and now I see it. It's like I can definitely hear that closing out a pay-per-view.
Right.
His in-ring work is still some of the best. I love the way he is kind of like, and I can't really say a clone of CM Punk, but they're very similar, where they mix a lot of MMA into their matches to give it more of a real fight feel.
See, and
Um,
I can see I can see in a lot of stuff he does also his mentor, in there in Davey Richards.
yep, yep. There's a lot of that too. It's a lot of like combining MMA moves and making it a real fight feel. The thing that I don't like is, okay, if he can come out, he can do his, 90s Hogan impression with the air guitar and this big smile and all that crap and everything. But when he got in the ring and started spitting out corny comedy lines, I was just like, okay, I can't do this. I'm sorry, Kyle, I love you to death, but I can't do this.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I mean, the whole, and it was fine. It was fine. And then he goes, can somebody turn up the lights? Oh, wait, ah, ha, 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 I got my sunglasses on. And then that whole thing with Cameron Grimes, where he's like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna fight you. You and I are partners now. But let me put my sunglasses on." And then, "Oh yeah, now I see you as my." The corny comedy lines really bugged me.
I agree with you. Something I did actually like that part at the end where he's like, "Oh wait, it is you," and then he punched. That I thought was funny, but
It
yeah, the corny stuff the beginning I did not like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I can see where they're going with it, and I think it's going to be fine. I just think that he's got to live in the character a little bit more.
He's got to embrace it a little bit and stay away from the corny, oh, I can't see because my sunglasses are on lines.
Right.
That promo was really good. I could have bought into the promo, but those little corny lines kind of took me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And Cameron
Exactly.
Grimes, I love Cameron Grimes. I absolutely love him. I love his character. I think he's incredibly talented in the ring. These two had great chemistry.
Yeah, they did.
That main event match was really well done. I enjoyed I enjoy what they're doing with Kyle O'Reilly. I think a feud with Kyle O'Reilly is going to elevate both him and Cameron Grimes um, into that upper level where I think they both deserve to be.
I'm not sure it's going to be a feud. I mean, he already beat him cleanly
I know, but
in one match.
you know how Cameron's kind of putting his nose into everything, trying to make a buck.
Yeah, I'm not sold on the idea as much as I love both guys. I'm not sold on the idea of O'Reilly being the first challenger for Cross, though.
No, I don't.
You know, I don't like that because I feel like it's too soon. I mean, we know Cross is going to drop the title anytime this soon, and I'd like Kyle to have a bit more build up before it happens. I and we it's not done between him and O'Reilly, or between him and Cole, no matter what he says. You
No,
know,
because they were arguing when they were both on stretchers.
right? And Cole said he was dead. I mean, so I don't know where they could possibly bring the feud at this point. Maybe it'll be the first ever Hell in a Cell inside NXT, but but their feud isn't over with yet, and I would really like to see him have a feud against somebody else as well, kind of as a spacer, like maybe against Cole, and then maybe against L.A. Knight would be good, something like that, and then before and then maybe finally overcoming Finn Balor before getting that title shot
Oh, I think he needs to
against
be
Cross.
he needs to beat Finn Balor before he can challenge Cross
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm
because he
saying. But I think that's what the path I'd like to see is somebody against somebody else like either Gargano for non-title or L.A. Knight, maybe Velveteen Dream if he ever returns. Something like somebody in that on that level before he faces Balor again and then eventually beats or faces off against Cross.
I
You
was a
know,
little bit disappointed not to see the way this week.
they were on there this week,
Were they?
weren't they?
I don't.
Yeah, there was that whole comedy thing about um
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
what's
you're
her
right.
tits trying to get in the pants of um
Loomis.
Dexter Loomis. Yeah,
I blocked it out because it's Dexter Loomis.
I just called indie wrestling. What's her tits?
I blocked it out because it was Dexter Loomis. So you're right, there was that whole thing. One thing that we didn't bring up on AEW that it just kind of dawned on me was Rusev or Miro. I mean, um, I'm liking his promos, but I don't. Okay, Kip hasn't. I haven't heard from Kip now for another week, and then in the very next segment they're like, "Hey, Kip's gonna be here next week wrestling," or as as a second to Penelope Ford.
Right.
That was a little bit off, but I do like where they're going with Miro, and I hope that the payoff is worth it. Anyway, back to NXT.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's they've been building that kind of simmering bad feeling between them ever since the wedding.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What else have I seen this week? So we saw Kushida was challenged by
Oni Lorcan.
Oni Lorcan. That was a pretty good match too.
Yeah, and I forget how good Oni Lorcan is in a single setting because he's been such a tag team guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really good. I I I do not. I still can't stand Legado del Fantasma.
No, no, and MSK coming out to rescue Kushida was another one of those what the fuck moments. They have no history together between MSK and Kushida. MSK doesn't have any history with Legata del Fantasma.
Well, no, they're the one they were in that triple threat tag match.
Right, but it didn't come down between the two of them. And that was more of a feud with GYV where these guys just got thrown in.
Right.
There was absolutely no reason for MSK to come running down.
Oh well, they came running down to be the babyface good guys.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. It kind of brought me back to the comment I made last week about how it didn't feel like the fans were really buying into them, so they're forcing them into a fan favorite backing up a fan favorite.
Could be, definitely could be.
Yeah, it just it felt forced and weird to me.
Yeah, and I didn't really like the Imperium stuff this week either. All it was beating down Everrise, who are nothing anyway, you know.
Right.
So I I I wish they were doing more with Imperium because I really like those guys, especially Marcel Bartel and shit, I can't remember his partner's name off the top of my head, but I really like that tag team, and I wish they were more prominent than just kind of appearing every week, you know.
Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, I mean, NXT, I think AEW did a much better job this week than NXT did. Um, I
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they're still. It feels odd to say this, but it seems like they're still finding their footing after all these after all this big transition they did 2 weeks ago. You know, I mean their women's champion, their world
yes,
champion, their tag team champions all changed 2 weeks ago. You know, so it
to me,
really seems like they're trying to find their footing with these new roles.
yeah, and maybe changing all three champions was a bad idea. I know two of them they had to. Well, I guess if you think about it, over the last 3 weeks, they've changed all four champions because Kushida's the new cruiserweight.
Oh, right, that one too. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's right.
So, and
Yeah,
it's
so really only the only champion that's the only person that's held the title for their title for more than a month is Gargano.
yep, yeah, and nobody's really got a feud because everything kind of ended at Stand and Deliver. So now it's building new feuds for the champions. And I don't know if it's, I will say NXT does it a little bit better than the WWE proper does, but it seems like once a champion's gone, they don't have a plan B in. Once a challenger's defeated, they don't have plan B.
Yeah, that's fair. I think right now.
Because I don't feel like anybody, and again, I get it, and I think it's something that should be happening, but how many different promotions are there that are having an open challenge for their one of their titles? It seems like everybody's having an open challenge now for one of their titles.
Um, you had mentioned CM Punk earlier. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Will Ospreay actually challenged CM Punk to challenge him for his a WGP World Heavyweight Championship.
CM Punk hasn't wrestled in 7 years.
I know. I was like, I got excited for the brief. I'm like, yeah, it's CM Punk. I don't care anymore. You know,
Right. Yeah, I mean,
it's been too long.
maybe if it was 2017, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'd like to see that. But it's 2001. He hasn't wrestled for 7 years.
It's 2021 still.
Oh my God, 2021. Yeah, but regardless, he hasn't wrestled for 7 years. He's shown absolutely no interest in getting back in the ring. I,
Right? And if he did, don't think I would care anymore.
I don't either. I mean, I don't know if he could still be considered, the best in the world like he was. The whole reason we fell in love with the guy was because he was that good in the ring. I don't know if he would still have that ability.
I don't think he would, and I think that if you really think about it, that John Moxley has surpassed what he could have been. You
Oh
know.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the closest I can come to think about, being able to come back after a long time off and eventually become one of the best again is Shawn Michaels. But after his 5 years off, it still took him a couple of years to get his feet underneath him again.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. You know, yeah, we saw Shawn Michaels come back after a 5 year layoff to be a top star, and Daniel Bryan after a 2 year layoff to be a top star. But adding those 2 years to memory years together and still coming back to be a top star, which does not seem. Well, I guess
I,
in a sense, Brock Lesnar did it, right?
yeah, but Brock Lesnar was still competing though. It's not like
Yeah,
Phil Brooks has just been doing TV. Um,
TV, writing comics,
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
um, Brock Lesnar was still in a ring and
Right.
still training and everything. I mean, you could say maybe Edge and Christian, because I mean, Edge had what, 10 years off? to
Yeah,
come
but
back and still be
but
a big deal. But how
he
much
came
of
back.
that is
He made it to be a big deal, but then he wrestled 2 matches and was injured for a year, pretty
yeah,
much.
true.
You know.
Christian's about the only one that could maybe pull it off. Christian's been out for 7.
Oh, don't forget Goldberg. Goldberg's done it.
Ugh.
No, I mean, if Punk were to come back, he would need to have do some serious training first, and he would need and that's I can't imagine him ever coming back at this point because why would he? I mean, he has a legacy where people are like, well, what if you had stayed? And if he came back, then it's just going to be forgotten. You know,
And the
it
funny
would, it,
thing
would- it,
is,
would, it would be like Michael Jordan in the Wizards outfit.
well, it's a lot like Stone Cold. When Stone Cold walked away just because he didn't want a job to Brock Lesnar on free TV. He was willing to job to Brock Lesnar, just not on free TV.
Not on free TV and not with no build-up.
And yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's a lot like CM Punk, where they just kind of walked when they were still kind of at their peak. But I mean, CM Punk's not a young guy anymore either. He's 42 years old.
You know, I watched that A&E biography on Stone Cold from this past week,
Oh, I was
and
going to, and I never got
and
around to it.
and they brought up the whole thing with Brock Lesnar, and I thought to myself like how much simpler, how easy would have been for that to get changed. You go in there and you talk to him. You're like, I don't think this is a good idea for this and this and this reason, and the match, either the match gets scrapped or it gets turned into like one of the two wins by count out or something. It's not something that he should have walked away for at all.
Well, I don't think he necessarily walked away. Think he refused to do the match and said, this is a
And got
bad
on a
booking
plane and
decision.
flew home.
Got on a plane and flew home, but I don't think he was, officially done at that point. I think it kind of got to that because of the way things went down afterwards. Jim Ross on there, he took his ball and went home, and um, you
No,
know,
no. When I said walk away, I didn't mean walk away from the promotion. I meant just walk away from that, like from that show.
yeah,
You know, all he had to do was talk to Vince or somebody and be like, I don't think it's a good idea for this and this and this reason. Why don't we do this instead? You know.
yeah, and I mean, I kind of agree with him, as far as the fact that he shouldn't have lost in an opening round on a throwaway Raw. If he's going to put Brock Lesnar over, maybe the end of the tournament would have been a better idea on pay-per-view.
No, I don't.
But
Again, I don't disagree with his thoughts on it. I disagree with
with the way he went about it.
with the way he handled it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, CM Punk is very similar to that. CM Punk just didn't want to lose to Triple H again on WrestleMania, so he's like, "Fuck it, I'm going home."
I think with Punk it's a lot more complicated than that. I really do. I think it's like he like looked at it, he's like, I keep putting all these guys over, and I'm never the one that gets put over.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it was shortly after his 434-day reign came to an end.
because he
Um,
kept and it wasn't that he kept putting guys over. He was also putting over all the guys that were part timers like Lesnar and The Rock and Undertaker. It was never anybody that was actually going to help the promotion by him putting them over.
right,
You know.
and I mean, he still should have beat The Rock at Royal Rumble that year
Yeah.
because Cena, and we were already all pissed off about a Cena Rock 2 because it was supposed to be once in a lifetime, and then next year we get to see it again. But it also didn't need the title.
No, it didn't. Not at all.
So, CM Punk should have won that match. But you're right. I mean, that was kind of the downfall. That's what set it in motion. Is that you know he lost his match to The Rock, and then he goes on a year where, yeah, okay, he has the face turn. His match against Brock at SummerSlam was it SummerSlam?
Yeah.
That was amazing. And then he had his little then he had that little bout where it was him kind of up against the Authority, but he was going to be the background guy against the Authority because um, they were given that spot to Daniel Bryan, and I think he just had enough of the politics at that
Yeah,
point.
he did for sure. And he he and Triple H have both said that he was not going to lose to Triple H at WrestleMania. That Triple H was going to that he was going to beat Triple H at WrestleMania. He just didn't want to face Triple H again.
Yeah,
He actually his actual words to Triple H was, "You need to face me a lot more than I need to face you."
And he's not wrong.
No, he's not.
You know,
I totally. I mean, I kind of agree. I think that he handled it badly, but I also think Triple H handled it badly. Like, there's no way Triple H should have fired him on his wedding day.
no,
You know.
no, and I mean,
And when he was calling back saying, when he called them and said, okay, let's talk about what we can do for my return, and they're like, no, we'll fire you when you're getting married. That's fucking bullshit.
right.
So
Yeah, and I mean, the way that it worked out, though, you can't ask for a better bookend storyline than what Daniel Bryan got because of it. Having since CM Punk wasn't there, Daniel Bryan got thrown into that opening match and then ended up winning the title later that night.
and then getting concussed and being out of action for other than like 3 matches for the next 2 years.
True, but I mean, as far as the story went, that was the best payoff anyone could have asked for.
I know it's kind of weird. Like if you think about like the two of the biggest like scandals, controversies, whatever you want to call them in the history of professional wrestling. The Survivor Series '97, and when CM Punk walked away, it did result in like huge storyline moments and huge events. But it's still, it's kind of like crazy how everything worked out that way.
Yeah, in '97, it created the greatest feud in the history of wrestling
Right.
with Vince versus Stone Cold, and then this one with CM Punk. Punk gave a great cap to a really good story and just a great moment in general for a guy who really deserved that great moment.
Yep. Yep. WrestleMania 30 is considered, by a lot of people to be one of the best WrestleManias of all time. There's really only a couple of good matches.
Well, I think it's the Daniel Bryan story that pushes it into being one of the greatest of all time.
It is. It's Daniel Bryan's story, and it's also that's also where Undertaker's streak ended too.
Oh, that's right. It did end on that match, on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So outside of three good matches, because it's basically two good stories.
Right. Exactly.
I still don't like the fact that Brock is the one who beat Taker.
No, but that moment, is one of the things that make it such a great WrestleMania.
And then for him to lose 2 years later to Roman Reigns just made no sense either. I still will say one of the best promos I've ever done on a spur of the moment. And fuck the fans for doing this to him. But when after Roman beat Undertaker, came out and just stood there in the middle of the ring while they booed him for a minute and a half, and then just went, "It's my yard now," and walked out.
Hmm.
It's still one of the best promos ever. I am not just the way he stood there and took it. He didn't get all pissed off. He didn't start telling him to shut up or anything. He didn't walk out of the ring. He just stood there and took it. I to me, that's one of the better moments of wrestling.
Well, that kind of reminds me of Eddie's great promo where he didn't say a single fucking word.
Oh yeah.
Remember that where he just out there in the crowd's all booing him, and all he does is throw Mysterio's mask on the ground and stomps on it, like
Yep.
like rubs his foot into it and walks off.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah. So I don't know. I hope that this Kyle O'Reilly thing works out. Get him away from goofy one-liners will make me happy.
I think it will.
But
I think that's pretty much all it for that. I mean, I do know that NJPW crowned their first ever NJPW Strong world champion, or NJPW Strong champion, but I haven't watched that tournament yet, so I really don't want to comment on it because I have no idea who it actually is.
whatever happened with the U.S. title and Moxley? Did they ever have a match?
Yeah, Moxley defeated Kenta to hold on to his title.
Ugh. So they still have no champion for the U.S. title holder.
Right.
Ugh, dumb. Oh well. All right. Well, yeah, guys, if you're listening on YouTube, which is pretty much the only place to listen now, give us a like, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell so that you don't miss any of the stuff that we put out. Other than that, I don't have much to talk about anymore.
No, I don't either. This week we got the Impact pay-per-view coming up tonight. We're gonna try to watch. I'll watch tonight, and Jeff will try to watch sometime during the week. And then I think we do have. When is the next NJPW show coming up?
I don't have any clue.
Let me look at that real quick here before we head off. Schedule. It's not, and there's really not a lot on that show, to be honest with you. So it's actually okay. So it's May 4th, and yeah, it's May 4th, and but really, I mean, on that show, I mean, really the only things that I'm looking forward to watching are, uh, oh, that's night one. I'm sorry. Okay, so actually, there's two nights. So, night two on May 4th, it's Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tonga Loa. Oh, actually, Jeff, we can't go yet. I got to talk to you about this stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so, um, let me go back. Let me go back a step before we talk about that show. So, at Wrestling Satsuma no Kuni on April 28th, which is a couple of days from now, the semi-main event is Toru Yano defending his KOPW 2021 trophy against Evil in a, ready for this,
Mm,
blindfold match.
okay.
Yano versus Evil in a blindfold match.
I, I'm speechless.
And then the main event of that show is Show and Yo defending their tag titles against the former champions Kanemaru and Desperado. So that should be a great match.
Yeah, it should
Again,
be a great match, but I'm done watching that match. They need to do something else with the tag teams because there's only three junior tag teams. Either get rid of it completely or something because I'm kind of getting sick of the same three tag teams rotating
well, I'm interested in that match because I don't understand why they're having a rematch this quickly with each other,
because
which
there's
makes
no
it
other tag teams.
which makes it that's why I said this quickly with each other because they don't really do a lot of junior tag team matches. So I'm wondering if we're going to see Yo turn on Show tonight on that night.
Yeah, I think I would enjoy Yo as a heel.
I know I would. He was acting a little bit heelish in the match when they won the titles back.
Oh,
So
nice.
um and then what was the other? There was another match coming up on. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so then on Wrestling Nataku Night One, which is on
May 3rd.
May 3rd, the semi-main event of that show is Tai Chi versus Tama Tonga in a ladder match for the Iron Fingers.
Dear sweet Jesus. What happened to NJPW?
I don't know. It's like COVID fried all their brains.
It's the best thing about NJPW is they didn't do gimmick matches. That was the best part of NJPW.
Well, to my knowledge, the only ladder match they've ever had was in 2016 with Kenny Omega versus um, Michael Elgin, which was a fantastic match.
Right,
But
but
if I were to tell you that two guys on the roster for NJPW were going to be in a ladder match, you'd probably be like, okay, who was it going to be? And if I said Tai Chi versus Tama Tonga, you'd be like, what the fuck? Who did you just say?
like Tama Tonga, I could possibly get if it was a tag team ladder match,
Right, because we've seen a couple of those with him in
Ring
Ring
of
of Honor.
Honor. But Tai Chi, uh, anyway, continue.
Yeah, I just can't imagine Tai Chi taking a bump off the ladder. It's so bizarre, you
So
know.
that's May 3rd.
And also the main event of that show is Hiroshi Tanahashi defending. I'd like to be Hiroshi Hashi. I'd like to see him wrestle a few more matches, but Hiroshi Tanahashi defending the Never Openweight Championship against Jay White. So that should be a fun match. But like a year ago, if I told you that Tanahashi and White were fighting over the Never title, you'd say to me like, "What the fuck?"
Like
So
I would love to have Jay White as a true never champion.
yeah,
But it's not a never championship anymore.
I think Jay White as a Never champion would be a lot of fun because he'd be wrestling guys like Ishii and Goto and Suzuki and Shibata and kind of like trying to avoid all of their power offense and just kind of outsmarting them to hold on to his title.
Yeah, that would
I
be a
think I think I think that'd be an amazing storyline.
that would be a lot of fun. But what this never title has become, which is basically their new intercontinental title.
Yeah, it's just kind of a mid card title now. Yeah.
Okay, so night one, actually that wouldn't be a bad match. I would love to see um, Jay White win it, but who knows?
And then night 2, the semi-main is El Desperado defending his junior heavyweight championship for the first time against Yo. And then Osprey is defending his world heavyweight championship against Shingo. So those should both be really good matches.
Yeah, those should be. But and then look at that for 3 straight nights of crazy wrestling. We got first night of Duntaco on the 3rd, second on the 4th, and then May 5th we got the Blood and Guts match.
That's right. It is May 5th, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
That's sensational.
So that's gonna be a fun 3 nights of wrestling there.
And then there's a show coming up for FCW called Wrestle Grand Slams. That's another new event for them this year. Interesting.
On May 15th, not even a week later. Well, night 1
Is
is
there,
May 15th, night 2 is May 29th, so and then Dominion on May 29th. What the fuck?
Dominion's in May this year?
Okay, this is so night 1 of this
No, Dominion's
wrestling.
on June 6th. Sorry, go
Okay,
ahead.
so that's a misprint then. But still, back-to-back weeks of having shows. Wrestle Dynasty is new too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Huh.
Interesting. And of course the challenger is actually already set for the Wrestle Grand Slam show in Tokyo Dome, as Okada's challenging whoever wins the Shingo versus Osprey match.
Which will be Osprey. And I hope
Yeah.
Osprey gets his win back.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I mean I guess it makes sense since they're wrestling in Tokyo Dome on May 29th, but I really thought they would save Osprey versus Okada for Dominion.
Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe they'll have a rematch at Dominion or something. It's only a week later.
I guess we'll.
That's insane.
Right? That's what I just said. It's like back-to-back weeks. It's kind of not heard of.
No, not at all.
They like to but then again, they're doing gimmick matches now, so I have no clue what's going on over there anymore.
Yeah, I heard about those 2 matches earlier this week, and I'm like, I got to talk to Jeff about those 2. So.
All right, well, that's all I've got. I can't talk any more NJPW stuff because I'm gonna cry if we hear any more disappointment.
All right.
I will literally cry. I will cry.
All right. Well, that's all we got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye. Okay, Arlo, Daddy's done now, so.